Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Wake Up with Giants radio show. I am Lady Luck, and I'm joined here in studio by Ryan the Lion Morris, by Nick the Gentle Giant, and by the amazing Bill Schuffenhauer. And today's episode is about how to jump the hurdles of life's transitions. Aren't you into that, Ryan? I think Ryan's a long distance jumper, isn't he?
I'm not very good at jumping. I'm really good at falling. Yeah, short distance falling. Is that a thing, Bill?
Downstairs, it is an Olympic
so
sport.
yeah,
now.
I don't. You probably can't see this at home. I don't know if you want to, but that happened over Christmas holiday.
If short distance falling is not a thing, we should definitely make it.
I know. Like I would have won, hands down. At least
gold
medaled.
Gold medal.
Yeah, it was
Gold
gross.
medal for that one.
Yeah, split it open. Fell all 2.5 feet down. Was out for like 2 weeks. I think that's what happens when you get old. I really did feel old.
I've seen better jumps. Yeah. I think you get a participation trophy.
6.5. Nick's over there.
Well, you guys, I didn't tell you. Now that I live in Ivans, I actually have a walker with tennis balls on it. So
is that a requirement?
Every day the conversations are, hey, what surgery did you have today?
That's right.
Yeah.
I got gout
and gas.
Gas. So true.
Bill, you're not that old, and you're in amazing shape too. You wouldn't.
Nick always talks about farts. He always takes it there.
Well, now it's self-predicting. Yeah, now I'm into it. Now it's a thing.
Goodness. All right, can we get serious here?
Yeah, let's get it.
All right, let's talk about life and transitions. Let's start with Bill. I'm going to go straight to you, Bill, actually, and I'm going to ask you to just fill into our radio audience a little bit about your background, what you do, where you came from, just in case they haven't seen you on the Wake Up with Giants TV show, just to give them a little context about where you're coming from.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's great to be back on here with you guys again. As she mentioned, my name is Bill Schuffenhauer. I'm a retired 3-time Olympian and Olympic silver medalist with Team USA in the bobsled. But before that, probably the coolest part is part of my story of how I grew up in Salt Lake City, homeless kid, born to a mom who's addicted to drugs, 17 foster homes. Just pretty much lived life on the streets. And that's pretty much all I knew. But at a young age, I knew that I wanted something more for myself and came up with some crazy dream about going to the Olympics and just held on to it for years and years and years.
But not for bobsled, right? Like you were doing like track and field type stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, track and field. Yep. And so now, now after accomplishing 3 Olympics, winning the silver medal in 2002, I'm kind of an entrepreneur as well. I do a lot of motivational speaking, consulting, just became a managing partner in a technology startup company, and going to start doing some corporate retreats down here in Ivans as well.
You're like the American Cool Runnings. Like we took track people and made them bobsled people.
Yeah.
Badass bobsled people.
Badass bobsled.
Yeah.
Billy bobsled.
Billy bobsledders. Love it.
So
3 times that was all you had in you? Just 3?
3. That was it. I was, that's why I live in Ivans.
Oh shoot.
So you overcame some big hurdles through life. I mean, really thinking about that, going back to your history, homeless. Can you speak about that a little more? How did you overcome that? What did you learn from that?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I was just born into that situation because, as I mentioned, I had a mom who was a drug addict, and her, my stepdad, that's just the life they led. And so, as a kid growing up, I was pretty much the kid that no one really wanted to hang out with. I was always in trouble at school, got held back a few times, and, was just that trouble kid and didn't really have any real direction. I just knew that, bouncing back and forth with my mom, sometimes my grandma would take me in or a foster home. There was one opportunity that I went up to go stay with my grandma. And that was like the first time I had an opportunity to see a an architecture that was just different than the streets of Salt Lake City, and kids that were happy, excited, dressed well, were taken care of, ate healthy meals, so on and so on. I just saw that, and I just realized that that was a much different energy that I was used to as a kid, but I was super attracted to that new energy, and I just got curious. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, I think that's what stops so many people from accomplishing what they want to do in life is they don't dare to get curious. And at a young age, I was curious, and got to understand like sports and school a little bit better, and eventually went out for track and field because I was used to running from cops and jumping fences and stuff like that. So I had to figure out something.
We don't condone that.
Right.
But you could win 3 Olympic medals if you do.
This ad was sponsored by
Criminal activity.
Johnson's Bail Bonds.
Am I getting paid for those? Hold on.
Yeah.
I just heard the phone ring.
Is
That
there
might
still
be
a
that.
balance? Yeah.
Right. So just ended up being really good at track and field, and enjoyed the camaraderie, and enjoyed like people looking at me, just differently, and just was doing it just because I was having fun, but I was winning everything. And so that's what eventually led me into a pretty solid career in track and field as one of the top decathletes in the world at several points in time, and then as you guys know, right prior to the 2000 City Olympics, I'd already qualified top 5 in the world, and ended up blowing out my ankle on the long jump board 2 weeks before Olympic trials, and that kind of was the end of that. And then didn't let that hurdle in life get in my way, and an opportunity came up about a year later, and somebody said, "Hey, how cool would that be if you made the Olympics in Salt Lake City?" And of course, I'm like, no idea what they're talking about. But the reality was my team and I got together after the track thing, and when we were presenting this thing with bobsled, and we're like, how cool would that be if we could actually write this story? You grew up on the streets of Salt Lake City, overcame the worst stuff that a kid could ever have gone through and seen, and then turned your life around in your own city to make the Olympics, and then win the U.S. team the first Olympic medal in 46 years.
Do you even like the snow? Like
No.
Me neither.
But I was that kid who was never, I was told I would never even make it to the age of 16 years old because I was in that much trouble. But I knew I wanted something better for myself, and I knew I didn't want the lifestyle that my mom was putting me through. And so, like I said, I just came up with a crazy idea, created a dream, took actions toward it, and just didn't let it go.
I was thinking about the kids, like going back a little ways on your comment there, that sometimes we'll see something that's different, and it's like, that's weird, for what we're used to, but then you want it, right? I remember I went through impact training years ago, and I thought they were the weirdest people. They were all up there hugging and stuff. I'm like, that is weird. I want that.
Yeah.
It's weird. I want that.
Why do I want closer?
Yeah. Look at this.
Yeah.
Hugs.
Yeah.
Now we got Ryan right here.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how it pulls you in, and then you have a transition in life, and then it becomes a foundation for another level. I mean, everything that happened, we were also talking, about your blowing out your ankle, right? Yeah. Was it your ankle?
Yeah.
So James Melanchek was on our show this last Sunday, and he talked about wanting to go down the line of basketball, and he blew out his knee, and he had to pivot, turn another direction. And I love that both of you powerhouses pivoted. It wasn't so much a transition, it was a pivot. It's just there was already another option in line. It's like, I'm never going to quit.
Yeah.
What is his tagline, Nick? The world's greatest speaking coach, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Coach to Les Brown and Russell Brunson and Jack Canfield. And
yeah, I'm getting certified. I'm finishing up my certification, Jack Canfield, right now.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So tell me about that pivot though, because when you're in that space, it could feel a little overwhelming. So somebody might be in that space and they've got their line of sight of what they're going to create in their life, and then something happens and it goes another direction.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know as well as I do, like, life is all about pivots adaptation, overcoming. And for me, the desire to achieve that goal I wanted to achieve to become an Olympian was so overwhelming that even when I gave up on track and walked away, I feel that I was still putting that energy out there to attract something, and along comes bobsled. And so when, I guess, we'll call it manifestation or whatever we want, but, I seem to think it's something that works really well for me. But so when this completely out of this world sport comes out of nowhere and finds little Bill Schuffenhauer in Ogden, Utah, I was just like, this is like just not like happening just because it's supposed to happen for a reason. Right. And so, so that, the opportunity, I mean, and that could be in real life, right? That could be something that comes to somebody in life, and that opportunity seems way too good to be true. So they push it away. Right. And I came up with a quote a while back. You guys heard part of it, but like, when opportunity knocks, always at least take a look and see what's there. You don't have to welcome it in, but you'd be shooting yourself in the foot if you don't actually just take a look and see what's going on.
Look through the peephole.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm wondering if you can talk to us about the mental shift you had to take in that, not just physically shifting to a different sport, but what mentally does that do to you when, you had that dream in front of you and it's just shattered along with your ankle, right? What did you need to do mentally, and what strategies did you need to implement and use to get past that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was pretty devastated, when that happened, because your whole dreams, the only thing you've ever known, comes crashing down. And it's not only that you feel like you let yourself down, but you feel like you let your friends and your family down that, was surrounding you to try and help you get there. And, I was so, just trying to overemphasize like the devastation that I felt, and which a lot of people do when they have issues in life too. Right. And I'll be honest, like, I went home for a couple of weeks and literally became like drinking all the time because I had this injury. I couldn't do anything. My career was over. My dreams were over. And so for probably a good month and a half, 2 months, I woke up first thing in the morning, walked down to the corner store, bought 12 40s, walked back up to my place in Ogden, drank until I passed out, woke up the next morning, did it all over again. So, and I say that because I want to be as vulnerable as possible for listeners, because you guys know me, I'm pretty open about all the stuff that's happened in my life, but I just want them to know, they're not the only ones that are experiencing some of these things. And people out there do, but when that opportunity came and somebody's like, hey, how about this? Man, it was kind of weird and might be a unique situation, but I didn't even know what the sport was, but somebody said something about trying the Olympics, and I just, in my head, the energy connected, and I was like, I don't even care what the sport is. If they think I can do this, let's talk about it, whatever it is. But at the same time, kind of speaking to what you're asking, I had to declutter and let go a lot of those negative emotions that I acquired from the injury and the failure and stuff too, because I was extremely depressed, alcoholic, and that stuff is not going to help you in any way, shape, or form get from A to B, or accomplish anything. And so I realized that, because I knew, the things I had to do that got me to getting injured right before Sydney was a pretty solid, clean life. It was very planned out. It was very strategic. There was no exception for mishaps or whatever. And so I knew when this opportunity came up, I'd have to switch my mindset back into that frame of mind. And it's honestly, we talked about it, I think, on the last show. I went through a huge transition after I retired from the Olympics. And, that led into alcoholism, depression, suicide, and all that stuff. But one of the many things I should say that got me out of that, similar to this situation, is I just had this conversation with myself, and was like, okay, I know you're better than what you're doing right now. I know you're way better than this. And I just thought, okay, at what point in time in my life was I at the very, very best? And so I did a reflection rather than trying to look forward. I was like reflecting back on like, when was I my very best? And, obviously it was the 2002 Olympics when everything went really, really well. And I was like, okay, what did your architecture around you look like then? And, obviously being healthy, not drinking, not partying, spending, time with the correct people in life. I did a massive decluttering. I literally sold my apartment, sold everything I had in my apartment, quit. I shut down a company, got rid of a lot of friends, and I packed up, and that's when I moved to Salt Lake and just started surrounding myself with more healthy individuals like you guys, and just realized that was the path I needed to take. I kind of took a look back at all the things that I've done in the past that never worked and started changing those things one thing at a time. I think one of the important parts about this too, though, is I knew this was going to be a long haul. It's not going to be something that you start thinking about it tonight and it's going to change right away tomorrow or the next week or the next month. So I prepared myself too for the long haul. And
we all have something. We're like, hey,
no, I'm diving in.
You dive.
No, I'm going to hit on depression. Because you talked purely about the journey of depression there. You guys hang on to your stuff though. Don't forget. So write it down.
Yep.
The journey of depression. We talk about this in other. It's a trap. In other shows is like depression is meant. A lot of people look at it it is a hard thing. You go into depression and the chemicals that go through your body and the emotional reactions and the shutting down and the withdrawal, they feel really hard. So a lot of people numb out to them. And they'll get into alcohol or drugs or sex or food or anything that will numb them to it. Even social media now is becoming one of those things. So as you look at it, like depression could be a useful tool. It's something that gets us to pull our power back from things that are no longer serving us. They're not working anymore. And so it has us pull back. And then when we pull back, we go right into rumination, which you talked about reflection. You went to a positive area at that time. A lot of people, they ruminate on the negative and they ruminate on the things that they're bad at and why they're so terrible. And it just keeps them spun up in that cycle of depression. And if we can just reflect on the things that we've done right, then it can help us to have reverence and respect for the experience. And then when we get to that point of acceptance, then we can re-engage in a new direction into something else, because your career as you knew it was over. There was no more energy in that track and field. And so to put energy into that wasn't going to serve you. And so in a way, depression served you by saying, let's pull your energy back. Let's reset. Let's re-engage. And that's the resilience cycle. So the more quickly you can go through that cycle, the more resilient you are. And for a lot of us, it might be years and years before we come out of that cycle. For some people, they drink themselves and they don't come out of it, or they take their lives at the bottom of it, right? It's just too hard. Does that hit home for you at all?
Oh, absolutely. I've been one that's been very open, obviously now, about like my depression and the suicide and all that stuff. And so, like depression, you could totally utilize that as a tool, and it's not something of failure. If you want to compare it to like something in sports, when somebody does something in sports and they fail, to succeed, utilize that as a tool to move on. The same thing with depression. Like if you fall into a depressive state, like, utilize that as an opportunity to figure out what's going on and move on. Right. I actually, as you guys know, a lot about my story too. I actually had to finally get into a place where I was game planning my emotions, I guess, managing my emotions, and something I've never done before in my whole life, because I had to manage them because of the roller coaster of depression was so far up and down. It was just driving me crazy. And so I started getting into this practice that anytime I start feeling depressed, I have like almost this order of operation. Like I'll stop and I'll be like, okay, why are you feeling this way? And whatever it is, that leads me to the next step. So I go through these things, and part of that is no matter how weird you feel about being depressed, I always promise myself 100% that conversation I start with myself ends up within 5 minutes talking to somebody else and just telling them what's going on with me.
Yeah, wow, that's powerful, right?
So
Yeah, and I want to highlight a few things there because I don't want to get too far without going back to these things and really highlight that that but it wasn't an immediate shift, right? Like you didn't just go and drink it away for a week or 2 weeks and then you were back again. Like and I really want to highlight that for our listeners that you actually were in that place for a while, feeling deep in that place, right? And that's okay. And nobody's saying that you go and feel the depressed for a day or a week and you shift it's always going to be a slow moving vehicle, so to speak, and each time you experience that, because you will continue to experience that in different stages of your life, right? And you've said yourself that it happened a couple of times. It happened when you shattered your ankle, and then it happened again when you stepped back from the Olympics. And I've experienced the same in life's hurdles, gone back into some depression or some anxiety when the next big hurdle came up. But what I find for myself, and I'm sure you found this too, is that as you begin to work through and as you learn more strategies, the shift is smaller and smaller each time, because you learn how to get yourself out of it quicker each time and how to manage it easier each time, and you pick up more strategies each time. So it's a constant work to get through it, but it goes quicker each time as you go.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And I kind of want to go back to it was something that took time, right? So from the last one was from when I retired in 2010, and I didn't truly come out of that depression until about 2019. And so and it was stuff like I was trying to work on it. My personality, which I always have to keep in check, is that I always think I can do everything on my own. And so for 8.5 years after the Olympics in 2010 till about 2018, mid 2018, I just continued to try to do it on my own. And obviously that didn't work. And I didn't know anybody it's worked for. And so, my real change is when I decided to be this 6 foot, 240-pound Olympic athlete, blah, 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 and just pull it all down and become the most vulnerable person I could be and open up to people and not try to do it on my own. And so even after, 8.5 years, there was still a lot of work that had to be done. And there still is a lot of work for me to be done to continue on. It's a constant work, and so.
I like how you talked about going back and finding who was around you when you were winning before. Who was there? So you went back and you re-engineered it and put it back together. Similar type of people and energy, and all kinds of things that, hey, this is when I was winning. This is what I was doing. I could take that back and go, okay, well, who are the people that you're around? Who are the people that are there to support if something like this happens? Who can you go to? Who can you be vulnerable with? Who can you reach out to and say, this is happening? And then I think it's important that we tell kids this all the time, right? It's hang out with good kids. Won't get close to the mud. You won't get mud on you.
Yeah.
So but if you do, if something does happen in life and you have people around you that can support you through depression or different transitions in life, it just makes it that much easier, in sports or in general life.
Yeah, I think likewise it tells you who to stay away from too, and not, like, when you're in a place like that, not be allowing certain energies in and certain experiences in, right? Like, I know when I'm in a state of anxiety, I'm not going to go watch a horror movie. That's just going to get my heart pumping and it's going to make it worse, right?
Gosh
So
dang it,
what's
I've
my
been doing it
input?
wrong.
All the horror,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Yeah,
so
that's just not going to work.
we're wired for social connection. I mean, when people are isolated, they die. They literally go crazy and they die. And like in prisons, they've tested that with people where they put them in isolation. It's one of the worst punishments that anybody could ever face. And so, but we think when we're in a depressive state, I can't talk to anybody. I've got to do this alone. And so we cut ourselves off from that connection, and we have to have that connection. My biggest healing has come from connection.
Dude,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, and you think about it too. Like, I mean, we can make sports analogies all night.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you think about it at the most highest stressful time, a football team that's successful, they come closer together. They help support each other even more.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't have, and anytime you have like one guy who's like, oh, I can just do it on my own, like this is never going to work, you know? And it's interesting how we just get in that state of mind, like you're saying, that like, you know, when we really need help, we kind of try and isolate ourselves. And it was a hard one. So one of my friends who's on here, you know, she's mentioning that it's still hard for her to ask for help.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, like when, and I'm not patting myself on the shoulder, but when you're like one of the best athletes in the world at your sport for such a long time and you're waited on like hand and foot and everything's taken care of, you don't ever have to worry about anything. And you go from that to the normal world. I didn't want to ask anybody for anything because I didn't want anybody to think I was like weak and couldn't do it. And so that was one of the things that took so long, those 8.5 years, is for me to just ask for help. And I actually had to start asking for help for like this random stupid things that kind of made me a little uncomfortable, and just progressed up and realized like how much easier it was. And I'm like, gosh, it only makes sense. Like I didn't go do bobsled and go to the Olympics by myself in bobsled. I did it with 3 other dudes who were on the same level and had no problem for me asking him for help for anything, you know, like it just, we had that communication, and we all have to build up to that too. Cause you know, especially guys, I know it is hard for girls too, but I know guys, we don't like to ask for help because we weren't taught that way. So,
but there is a balance too, but part of the depressive cycle is to withdraw. Like you're going to withdraw if you go through abandonment. Susan Anderson's work talks about abandonment and the swirl cycle, the shattering, the withdrawal, the internalization, the rage, and the lifting. And in depression, it's a similar cycle, but that withdrawal is something that we do pull back because we have to look after ourselves and make sure we're safe. But then when it gets too long, then it becomes problematic because now, like you said, you start creating that issue not only with yourself, but now you're harming your social connections, you're harming your team. Like there's a point where you got to re-engage. And so how do you do that?
It's hard.
No. Yeah.
And that's why I said, like, for me, I actually like make a note all the time, constantly in my head, like, what are my triggers?
Yeah.
I don't want to go down that path because for me, going back down that depression path and not asking or getting help leads back to excessively drinking. Like I'm in pain all the time. It is what it is. I would never trade it for anything, but you know, pain pills, antidepressant medication, isolating myself, blowing money, you know, and I know like I don't want to go down that path anymore because I've got bigger and better things, you know, whether they're small or big in reality, like better than going back down that path. So again, you know, I have to know what my triggers are and actually respect them and give them attention so that I know when those happen, I've got my process and procedures of what I need to do to not go back down that path.
Yeah, and you know, I love something I've been noticing a lot lately is that there'll be some kind of a sign. I'll be like, you know, just deep in something, feeling into it and be like, okay, I'm just going to bed and I'm just hiding from the world. I'm going to go to bed for the rest of the day and I'm just done, right? And then something will happen. The phone will ring, somebody will text me, I'll pop onto Facebook and a message will pop up and it'll just be like it's that little kick in the butt that, and as long as you look at it and interpret it as that, then it's like, okay, yeah, you laid here for half an hour, you felt into it, you did that, but okay, I'm gonna get up because I'm gonna talk to this person, I'm gonna return the text, or I'm gonna talk to this person on the phone. And there always seems, as long as you can find it and see it and move with it, there always seems to be that little push in the right direction to get you going.
I just hear that song in my mind. Signs everywhere there's signs. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been noticing that a lot lately. And sometimes I'm at home alone in the house, so I'll just talk to myself and go, "Yep, get over it, Melissa. Get up.
I do that in
Get going."
public. You're like, what the hell?
A little weirder in public.
Yeah.
People go to the mall and they're like, don't stay away from that guy.
Yeah, right. He's the only sane one in the room.
Nick's
Do
weird like
we
that.
want to take a break or keep going? I'm good with these podcasts moving forward
I'm good.
for the full time, but if we need to take a break, we can do that.
We can just, I liked what Ryan did last time, actually. We can just like make
Keep
an
going.
end, make a break, and then keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's pause for like 5 seconds.
Station identification.
And done.
We like to thank our sponsor.
And then I'll just do a reintroduction, okay?
Perfect.
Yeah, let's do it.
Welcome back to the Wake Up with Giants radio show. I am Lady Luck, and I'm joined here with Ryan the Lion Morris, Nick the Gentle Giant, and Bill Schuffenhauer. And today we're talking about how to jump the hurdles of life's transitions.
Yeah, there were some comments here that I want to pull back into this half of the show that men and women have been conditioned to keep quiet, right? To not say anything, to not talk to others. And a lot of people are stepping up and breaking that cycle, right? Like it's a sign of weakness, the stoicism, right? Well, just toughen up, wipe off your tears, and let's get back to work. And there's power in that mothering energy that we all kind of need. If we didn't get it as kids, we look for it. We look for it in relationships. We look for it everywhere. There's a kid's book. I don't know if you remember. It says, "Are you my mom?" And he's this little bird. He's
Are you my mama?
Yeah.
Are you my mama? I love that.
I think we kind of do that, and then what we do is we harm relationships because we're trying to get that nurturing from somebody else, but at the same time, we're not supposed to tell that we need that nurturing, and so we're hiding it. So we're a little bit cloak and daggerish. I don't know if that's even a thing, but
yeah,
we hide it. And then we put it on somebody else. Like, I need your nurturing, but I'm not going to tell you that I need my nurturing because I'm strong. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just turns into a mess. I think the vulnerability, Bill, that you're showing here, you're a big dude. Like somebody be up to you and they'd look at you and they'd think, man, this guy's got it together.
Yeah.
Right. This dude never cries, not a single tear in his life.
Yeah.
And we find out, nah, dude, this dude shed some tears. Right.
Yeah. I'm really big, obviously, on reflection.
Yeah.
And interesting to reflect back before I made the decision to be vulnerable, right? Because the thought of like being vulnerable and telling my story and talking about the depression, addiction, suicide, and all that stuff, thinking about it before then, I was like, absolutely hell no, there's no way I'm going to tell anybody on the face of this planet that I feel that way.
Yeah.
Not even close. Because I was like, in my head, I was like, I'm going to lose my clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to get another speaking deal. I have people talking behind my back. Like I built all these negativities in my head. Right.
Yeah.
There's no way I was going to talk about it. And, for me, and again, this is for me, I literally had to pray about it that night because I was so overwhelmed. And part of what the message I got was that as many people as I've helped and impacted with my story of going from the streets to the Olympics, was that held in comparison on the people I could help, talking about going from the very top to the very bottom to taking my life, everything was destroyed. And helping people understand how to actually transition through that is going to be so much more monumental than the other story. And so once I realized that, I was like, I will be the most vulnerable guy in the room. all day, every day, if I can help anybody.
Since
Yeah.
then, he's never stopped crying.
Right?
He just cries every day.
Rivers and rivers.
No, yeah, I love that you said that though, and it actually it brought something to the forefront for me. We even as a woman, I had the same feelings. Like, what will people think of me? They'll think I'm weak, right? They'll think I'm not. I want to be the perfect mother and the perfect woman, and I can handle it all. They're gonna think I'm weak, and not wanting to reach out for help because people would think you were the perfect person and now you're not. Like, I can't believe that that's actually you, right? And people wouldn't approve of me. But what actually kept me from going through with the suicidal thoughts was the same thing. Was like, if it doesn't work, if I'm still alive on the other end, what will people think of me? So it was the same thoughts that kept me from asking for the help, that kept me from actually committing the suicide, because, like, what will people think of me if it actually, if I'm still around and have to be around these people, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting that it's the same dynamic that both puts you there and keeps you just on the other side, or did me anyway.
It's the same fear.
Yeah.
When you make it about you, though, like you're having a dialogue with another person or you're serving a group of people and it's about you, then that's the energy that comes up, right? It's well, what would I look like? What would that mean about me? And when you get into that space, we learn from guys like Stephen McGee, who just tried to call me here. I'll call him after the show. Is powerful at just holding space more in the world of, this is where I'm at, and I love you over there so much. I'm going to serve you where you're at, and it doesn't matter what you think of me. Like, I don't mean that in a way that I don't care what you think. It's just simply that you're important. So I'm going to set myself aside so I can be here and be present for you. So you know who you're working with. Like, I'm here for you. I'm not here for me. Because when we get in that space of being here for me, then yeah, we're nervous. We get anxious. We worry about what other people think. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting you say that too, because I had to eventually get into a space where, just like you said, that I just didn't care what anybody thought about me. And it wasn't no offense to them. What I realized about myself was, when I was so worried about what you thought about me, I started putting on a show, and it wasn't truly the person I really, and I wasn't authentic, and I wasn't real. And so for me, that's like how, we can twist and turn it, but we're all, I think, talking about the same thing, right?
Yeah.
I literally had to get to a point where, like, anywhere I go, I'm like, I just don't care. And that just allows me to be authentic and original with everybody I come across.
Yeah. Maybe it doesn't mean that much about you, right? Or me or anybody. It's like, it just is what it is. It's an event, which I think gives some grace to the transformation too. Gives room for that to occur. Ryan, what's going on in your world, in your mind?
Just grateful that both of you didn't follow through with that, because you look back and Melissa, could you see yourself right here, right now, back then?
No, absolutely not. And, I would have said back then, before I was in that depressive state, I would have said I could never understand why anyone would want to commit suicide and why anyone would ever be there. And I remember also thinking, before I had children, I could never understand how someone could shake their baby. And how could that ever happen? Shaken baby syndrome. How could that ever happen? How could somebody shake their baby like that? And my depression was postpartum depression. And when I got to that point, number one, I had the suicidal thoughts, and I was there 3 times in about a 2.5-year span. And I thought, oh my God, this is scary, because I never thought I would feel this way. And now I'm here, and now I'm scared that I'm feeling this way. Right. It was a really scary realization that I was there. And then number 2, mine was postpartum depression, and I couldn't be with my daughter. Right. And my mom was there for the whole first year of her life. And it took me about the first 6 months of her life, with exposure therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, to be able to take care of her and be with her. She would cry, and I would have to leave the room, or I would go into anxiety. And at that point, that's when I realized that's how shaken baby syndrome happens. That's how that's how that could happen. Not that I was ever there, but just I can now understand and see and feel into where people are mentally at when they're feeling that way and when those things are happening. And I see that as a blessing now. I see it as such a blessing because I have that understanding of it. So when somebody's talking about it, I'm not just over here trying to sit and support and hold the space over here. I can sit in it with them. I can sit in the feeling with them because I have that understanding. And it's such a different shift. It's such a shift in the way that you can support someone when you're sitting in the same understanding. Same with anxiety, because I had it. I was able to sit in it with my son and support him with that, whereas his father had never experienced it before. So it was difficult for him to sit in it and feel it with him. So it's difficult to parent someone through that if you haven't experienced it and you can't see the signs and you can't feel into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and as I hear that, I think, Bill, our topic is to jump the hurdles of life transitions, but are there times where it's okay to crawl under it? Yeah. I think there are times that I've felt that in my life where it's been so heavy and so dark that all I could do was crawl under the hurdle.
Yeah.
I kept moving, that's the thing, is keep moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're not always at the very top of the mountain, right?
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere. And along that path of the mountain, sometimes it's nice and grassy and pretty, and sometimes it's rocky and crappy, and it's not always going to be, in a 110-meter hurdle race, you don't clear every hurdle unless you were perfect, right? Most people hit at least one hurdle. And it's, it's not about not making it over the hurdle. It's just not allowing the hurdle to make it over you. And, and
what's underneath a hurdle? A tunnel.
Yeah.
You can still walk through a tunnel. It's dark and it's deep, but you can still walk through it.
Well, Melissa, you talk about that, like the emerging from the darkness a lot, and how heavy it is, and that opportunity to grow through that darkness. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it actually took me a really long time to realize that opportunity was there. When I was in that depression, I just remember I actually left my house. I walked away from my kids and my husband. I just literally in the dark one night just got in my car and drove away. Didn't know where I was going. Ended up at a friend's house, and I talk about, this was my like realization of how deep the depression was. I literally just got in my car, drove away, ended up at her house. I don't even know how I drove there. I didn't even remember the drive. Just ended up ringing her doorbell. And I think I only knocked because it was late and her kids were sleeping upstairs. And I just remember walking in and feeling the presence of her kids in the house, even though they were asleep upstairs, and knowing I just walked away from mine and I didn't know if I was going to go back. And I sunk into a chair in her living room and just started bawling. And I was just like, I'm just in this deep, dark hole and I don't know how to get out. I don't know how I got here. I don't know how to get out. It's dark. It's lonely. And I don't know what to do. And that was like the first realization of, this is deep. This is dark. I need help. And I felt like, at the bottom of a well, trying to climb up and climb out, and you can't hold on to it, and there's nothing to hang on to. You're just in this deep, dark place. And at that point, I didn't see it as an opportunity to grow. I didn't see that until I started getting some help and getting into some counseling and getting into some cognitive behavioral therapy, and being able to be with my daughter again, and sort of with the help of others, coming to the realization that I can get out of this. And once I started to make those steps to get out of it, that's when I saw that, okay, I'm buried under here, but so when you plant a seed is buried underneath the dirt too, and it grows into a beautiful, beautiful flower. So that realization didn't come until I started doing that work and started climbing my way out, right? And making my way to the light from underneath in the darkness. I have, I don't know if I can show it on the camera. You won't be able to see it. It's a lotus flower that's tattooed on my arm, and it's tattooed so that I can see it, not anyone else. And that's because the lotus flower actually grows from the mud. it's one of the most beautiful flowers, and it grows out of the mud.
Mm.
And when I finished the cognitive behavioral therapy, I did 16 weeks of that. And I got stronger, tattooed on my wrist when I finished that. And then I hit a patch of depression again after my separation. And I was really heavily stressed out taking care of my kids and driving them long distances to school and all that kind of stuff. And I went on a meditation retreat in Costa Rica. And at the end of the week of this, and we meditated 3 times a day for 7 days. It was yoga nidra meditation. It was deep, deep, deep. And it was the first time I had done that kind of meditation. And I don't know if anyone meditates out there. I actually had the Kundalini come up, which is like a full, like, it's like fire coming up from you all the way up to the top of your head, popped out of the meditation. So I didn't experience the full experience, but popped out of it. And I'm told that people go years and years trying to have that experience. And I had that on about day 5. And it was just such a life-changing retreat. While I was there, I went to this little tattoo parlor with a bunch of people in Costa Rica and had that lotus flower put on my arm, because it was just symbolizing, being in that mud again, but finding my way out and finding the power and finding the beauty and getting up out of that mud.
That's awesome.
You're like the Bill Schuffenhauer of meditation. You won a silver medal. You almost got there, like the whole thing.
Commenting on that story, you did such an amazing job of painting the picture of what that darkness is like, right? Because that's exactly what it's like. And I felt the same way. And I just want everyone to know that, like, just because you cut out of depression once doesn't mean it won't happen again. So I always tell people, plan your race your plan, but be prepared for the unknowns. And that depression is one thing in life that is unknown. So, but we all go through it, and we're all here for each other.
And it's so personal too. Like, and it's can do different things to different people. And so to be loving and thank goodness you had a friend that you could go and just plop down on the late at night and just cry.
Yeah.
And a mom that wouldn't give up on you, right?
Oh, I like an entire year. My mom was there every day for a year, every single day, helping with her. And like, I'm talking like my very first assignment from cognitive behavioral therapy was, and I had such bad anxiety and 2 different kinds of anxiety that they put me, like, usually they put people into group cognitive behavioral therapy sessions, but I was like one-on-one with this counselor because I was so deep in it, and I had 2 different kinds. One was health anxiety and one was generalized. And so my very first homework assignment was to have my mom drive. My son was 2.5 at the time. Have my mom drive my daughter and my son and I to the local community center, and she would take my son into one room and they would just play. It was like an early years program. And I would take my daughter into the library right beside that room. And I just had to sit and sing and play with her in a group of people for half an hour. It was like my entire world was caving in. I spent 2 weeks with this counselor, crying, bawling, saying, I can't do it. I can't do it. I just don't think. I had cue cards. And I was writing myself affirmations on cue cards about, okay, if this happens, this will be okay. If this happens, this will be okay. If I have to go to the bathroom, I can leave her with the librarian. If I have to change her diaper, my mom's just outside the door, so don't worry about her diaper. If she cries, there's other people there and they can help you. And like, it was just cue cards of stuff and what ifs for weeks before I actually went and did it. And the first 2 weeks of the session, it was only half-an-hour sessions. I cried through the entire session. I told the librarian why I was there and what was happening, and I cried through that entire first half an hour for 2 weeks. It was like the most difficult thing in my entire life at that point in time, just to sit with my baby for half an hour. That's how deep and incredible it was, and how it really affected.
That makes me want to shout out our therapists on here. the ones that are doing that hard work, that challenging work of helping people to get to the point where they can start doing higher level work. Like I look at where you're at now, where you were at that time, you wouldn't be anywhere close to where you are right now.
No.
And man, just a shout out to those that have, helped people through that and that are there that consistently, whether it's your mom or your therapist or, best friend that can sit with you in that energy and help you work through it. I mean, you did the work, but they guided you, it's crazy. It's impressive. Like, I think I have patience, but I don't have that kind of patience. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, and I've experienced that from the other side too, because I got through that, and that was a 2.5 year recovery, because I had some other health issues at the same time. And, I got through that. And then my son had an anxiety attack. He had a panic attack his last day of grade 1. And he was supposed to go to a friend's pool party, and he had a crush on this little girl. She lived down around the corner from us. And I think he called her Princess at the time, like what's her name? Savannah was her name. Princess Savannah, he would call her. He was just so in love with this little girl, and he wanted to go to this pool party so bad. And the panic was so terrible that boy tried to get up 5 times off the sofa to go to this party, and he just couldn't do it. It was just, he was just in such panic. And I experienced that from the other side, from where my therapists were and where my mom was and everybody helping me through that. I was now on the other side, and I was having that patience with him and trying to help him work through it. So it was incredible to be on this other side of it and help him through that after I had done it. Yeah.
Bill, I'm going to lean on you with a question here. You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, yeah. So there's a book called Calming the Emotional Storm. It talks about dialectical behavioral therapy. And it's about tools that you use to distract, right? And what I'm going to ask you to do is kind of create a distinction between distraction and numbing. Like, you might have some intense emotions. You might be in a darkness. Distraction can be okay versus numbing. Can you kind of create that distinction with us? What's the difference there, and where's the line?
Well, I can tell you like my difference.
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
Nick's like, wrong.
No, I'm going down the wrong.
Cut his camera, please.
Let's just close his phone.
Right.
For me, numbing is going to start drinking and numbing the pain and not having to think about it and stuff like that. And so that's one thing, obviously, I recognize. It's taken me a long time to even come to that space to be able to do that too. But distraction for me might sound weird, but going to the gym or going for a walk, just trying to get distracting myself from being in the cloud of chaos enough to kind of step out and see like what's going on.
You have to be careful a little bit, because
perfect.
sometimes those distractions then become the numbing. They become the thing that you're just avoiding. But I like that distinction, Bill, because it's sometimes you just have to step back and do something to just shift your focus and then come back to it. I know that when something comes up for me, I've had to recognize when the emotions come up, when something's happening, and then sometimes I'll just sit with it. There's nothing to do, but I know it's there. I can feel it. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of time. And sometimes time will do that too. If it's the gym, to go take a run, a walk, sometimes grounding, like I'll go out and just go for a walk, just be out with nature, breathe some fresh air. You could even do the old parent tricks, like count to 10, just breathe. Breath work works as well. So
yeah.
And I think sometimes just like you're saying, sitting with it and just kind of letting it go too. And I'll say this as many people are listening, like I'll do that sometimes. I'll just sit with it and just let it go, let the emotions go. Cause I think there are emotions that I shove down and I just let it go to like where I start crying. And I'm saying that as a grown big man, like I'll sit there with myself and I'll cry and just let it go and try and just release some of that too. So
I've said this last night on the other show that I was on. I got my Anna and Elsa bracelet. It says "Let it go."
Nice.
Yeah, not too
I love
proud
it.
to wear a purple and turquoise necklace or a bracelet.
I was like, I had mine on. I don't know where they were.
You have an Anna and Elsa bracelet? I'm just kidding. I got bracelets.
Well, I think, having tools like this, knowing that distraction is okay. It's when you don't re-engage that it becomes numbing.
Yeah.
And when you wake up to that, you're still okay. Like there's this judgment that we throw on ourselves that just because we did that, then now we're no longer good or worthy or all these things that we say to ourselves, and it keeps us stuck in the numbing, and then it becomes addiction. And so just giving some grace to feel accepted by yourself, even like I'm okay where I'm at. Like I get that I numbed out, but I'm a good human. I'm going to re-engage here. And now that I'm aware of it, I'm going to re-engage.
Yep.
But sometimes to work through those difficult emotions, to distract is exactly what we need to do.
Mhm.
We need just a little bit of buffer between us and the experience.
I think one thing we also should inject in there really quick too.
Yeah.
As long as distraction doesn't turn into ignoring.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're not going to heal from it if you don't sit in the actual emotion of it and be with it. I think sometimes you just need to laugh at it too. And just laugh that you're there. Like, so I know I've said to Nick a few times, I find myself in those highs and lows sometimes because, I'm getting older. So I've got some hormone replacement stuff going on right now. And in those transitions, that happen a couple times a month, I will literally dip down into this low energy, and I just have to laugh about it. Like I'll just be crying and being weepy and being ridiculous about things, and I've texted Nick a couple times and just go like, I'm a weepy mess.
What's weepy?
I like just like crying, right? And just
I just send her a picture of a Snickers bar.
Yeah, just eat a Snickers, Melissa. You'll be all right.
But I'll just laugh about it, and I'll just say I'm a weepy mess. Those damn hormones again, right? And just laugh at the fact that like I know why it's happening. It's crazy and it's ridiculous, and I'm being a big baby about everything that's happening in my life today.
But there's a
distinction.
Weepy, right? What you're creating right there, Melissa, is a distinction between hiding a weakness and laughing at the emotion. Like, yeah, we go into that space, but you're laughing about it. It's okay for you to be there, but you don't have to hide it from anybody.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay that it's present. And so I like that. I like that you created.
We don't have much of an excuse. We don't have the hormones happening like that. What's up with us?
I don't know what we got.
No, we get weepy sometimes.
Yeah. Women complain about childbirth, but have you ever had a cold?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God.
Had one the other day. It was the worst.
Yeah.
Couldn't even get out of bed.
Right? Worst thing ever.
That's awesome.
And we just lost half our audience.
Yeah, right.
There's hate mail coming in already.
Yeah.
Right.
It's on
Somebody's
its way.
at my door. Hold on.
That's good.
No, it's interesting that we all experience it. Humans experience it. We go through the depressive cycles. We pivot. We have hurdles. There are opportunities to grow or pivot or change directions or create something different if we'll look at it that way. And man, I'm glad you're able to work through that, Bill, because to go to the point of suicidal thoughts, right? Some people don't make it out of there.
Yeah.
I have a kid that's going to come on our show. He's going to come on the park bench in February, the 23rd. And it's a show you'll want to watch.
Yeah.
And he's okay with me sharing this, but he put a rope around his neck and jumped off the porch.
Oh my goodness.
And he lived. He died, but he lived, right? And he turned his life around. He watches these shows, right? He's going to watch this with you, Bill, and be inspired by that. And he's out there inspiring other people. And it's like you can get to that point, and luckily for him, he made it through, and he's still working through it. Life's still challenging, right? Some people succeed; they don't come back, and we don't want that for anybody. If you're at that point, reach out to, there's the hotline. I don't know, Bill, what you'd recommend in that, but even asking somebody, are you having suicidal thoughts, sometimes is enough to have them not act on it.
Now there's a new Safe Utah app that is they're putting a lot of efforts behind that in many ways to help people that are just dealing with stuff, right? Sometimes you don't want to go in front of somebody, and your feelings, but just jump on the phone with somebody you don't know at all and just, allow them to help you. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talked a lot about, darkness and light. All this tattoo stuff, you guys can't see it on here, but I have a scar that goes from here to the other side. And when I survived my suicide attempt, I didn't want to hide it. The tattoo wasn't about hiding it. It was about showing me how much life, and again, from darkness comes light, is in me, and reminds myself every day to cherish that and to honor it and to hold on to it for many reasons. Yeah.
Man, I think it's phenomenal what you're doing. So thank you.
Well, we're doing. There's a tribe, man. This is
there is a tribe. Yeah, isn't that a beautiful thing? Yeah. This didn't exist a couple years ago. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, to see people step up and support each other the way that we are. It's beautiful. Yeah, thank you for being a part of that.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking at the time too. Like that just flew by. That's crazy. I'm wondering if everyone can just wrap up and give our last words.
Hugh has one.
I know. I just I'm literally just talking and I see
it's a new word.
Comment.
It's women pause.
Women pause. Yeah.
Yeah.
Goodness, that just threw me right off. I'm wondering if everyone can wrap up and give us our your last thoughts and last suggestions for all of our radio listeners. If you had one tip that you could give someone out there to make a difference, what would it be?
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I would say for me, like, I'll be quick because I want to hear from you guys, but just that you're not alone, that you have purpose, you have meaning, that sometimes in the deepest, darkest wells, like Melissa, she couldn't see it and she didn't see a way out. It was so deep, so dark. But thank goodness that she stuck in there. Because look at where she's at now. Like, look at the good that we're doing in the world, the good that she's doing in the world, the creations that have come from that, for staying in there. And find people to that'll be there. And if you don't know anybody, you can reach out to me. Find me on Facebook, message me. If you need to talk for a minute, we can figure that out. But they have a hotline as well, and those people are trained professionals. But let's talk. Let's help you. Let's figure this out, because you are a giant. You are worthy. You matter, and we love you. And that's why we love doing what we do, because the stories like this of then people get to share and be vulnerable to then help other people as well.
It's perfect. I got one word: re-engage. That's it.
I don't have one word, obviously. First, I want to give a shout out to, there's a couple people from O-Town that are listening and watching. So I want to say hi to them because they've been longtime friends, since high school and stuff. So love you guys.
John, Natalie.
Yeah.
O-Town in the house.
Right. Representing. Woof, woof. But what I would say is, to everyone out there who's listening, there is legitimately gold at the end of your rainbow. That rainbow is your journey of life, if you so choose to decide to go that journey. And the crazy part, just like what Ryan said, there's a bunch of crazy ass leprechauns that are around you that are come along on that crazy journey to help you get to the end of that rainbow and find your gold.
I think that's the official term. Crazy ass.
Crazy ass.
Crazy ass.
Crazy ass leprechauns.
Yeah. I think they're all in O-Town.
Oh goodness.
Melissa, how about you? Any final words?
No, I love that. And I'm going to go back to something that we touched on at the beginning, is just that it is constant work. Like, even if you move forward and you see another hurdle, just remember that it's constant work and it's going to take time and it doesn't happen overnight, and you're doing a great job. You are loved, you are kind, you're wonderful and accepted and perfect just as you are. You're doing a great job, and just keep going. Just keep jumping the hurdles. And when you're ready, you'll emerge. When you're ready, you will come through the dirt, right? And shine in the light.
I love it, man. A lot of good in O-Town. Thanks for being on, Giants. Any other? I don't even know how to end the radio show.
I know, we're just like,
50
how do we end that?
episodes.
Because we always have
Yeah.
an after show too, right? And it's just like there's no actual real ending to it.
Yeah, that's it. There's nothing left to do. Just invite Bill back.
That's it.
Bill, you want to come back at another point in time and hang out with us and help more people?
You guys know me. I'm always down. Absolutely.
I want to see those tattoos in real life. I can't see them
real
really
life,
good.
Bill. We need
In real
to
life.
see the
None
size
of that
of those
fake
guns.
stuff. None of that
Wow.
TV stuff.
Right?
None of that TV stuff. Those are amazing. I love those.
Oh, thank you.
The camera adds 10 pounds of muscle, but Bill's arms are still like 9 times as big as mine. His arms are as big as my waist. If I would have fallen with Bill's arms, I would have broke the stairs.
Be
You
a
would have.
dent, right?
There'd be a dent. Instead,
That's awesome.
there's a dent in
The
me.
mason jar would be screaming, "Don't hurt me!
No.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't hurt me!"
It would have never pierced through.
It
Nothing
saw
would
you
have
coming,
happened.
dude.
Yeah.
It saw you coming.
It's fierce.
Do you guys want to stay on for a minute on the after show? And guess we
should
Bill,
have
you got 3 or 4 or 5 more minutes?
I
Absolutely.
got thrown off by Natalie too. She said tats, and I thought it said something different.
Yeah.
And I had to do a double take
We're not
there.
doing
Don't
any
do
of that
that.
on this show. That's the after show.
Yeah, the after. Yeah,
That's a
the
premium.
late
premium
late
subscription.
show.
funny. That's a spin on it, right? Anyway, this show
When
is
we talk about shadow work and
this
your
show
dark
is
side.
rated G. Well, after show, man. Any questions from the viewers? Comments you want to bring up? And
What do you
anybody
got
wanna
out
ask
there?
anything?
Who wants to ask Bill a question? Because, yeah, he's done a lot of stuff.
I would like we didn't while we were in the episode, we didn't talk about where people can reach Bill if they
Yeah.
want to talk to him or follow up with him. Is there
He's in trouble?
Yeah.
Or is that all of O-Town?
O-Town.
That's
O-Town.
O-Town.
O-Town
Yeah.
accountability too. Yeah, I mean, I'm easy to find on Facebook or Instagram. I'm Bill Schuffenhauer, or it's easy to just go to my website, olympianspeaks.com.
Oh, I like that. Olympianspeaks.com. Oh, we are friends on Facebook. I had to go look.
That Olympian Speaks was hard to keep. I actually had to go to court with the U.S. Olympic Committee to keep.
Really?
Yeah. I'm
Really?
not supposed to say anything. I'm the only Olympian in history who's been able to use.
Nobody will ever see this.
Huh.
I know, right? But the only Olympian in history thus far who's actually been able to utilize Olympian in my business that's for profit.
Wow. That's
That's
incredible.
crazy.
That's a hurdle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably get a call tomorrow.
They're
He
like,
was.
we want to make a compromise. Instead of Olympian, we want you to say limpin.
Olympian.
speaks.
Let's go remove the O, please.
How's that work for you? That'd be good. Let's go ahead and sign that contract.
Right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Man.
Bill,
so,
hey, I have a question.
yeah.
Now this is just because of like my cool runnings mind, right? Starts going. Did you ever have like those things where, like how the Jamaicans were like, they didn't like, I think it was like the Germans or something like that. They were like making fun of each other. They got in a bar fight. Did you ever have anything like that where you didn't like a particular team and you were like, we're going to show these guys?
Not in the way that Hollywood wants you to think.
Oh,
Like, I mean, my biggest competition was usually always Germany.
so see, right? Fetching Germans.
And
There goes a quarter of our
hello,
audience.
Olympian. That's what it should be.
Right.
Hello, Olympian.
I like
Hello, Olympian speaks.
Hello, Olympian.
but even though Germany was my biggest competition, we would actually collaborate with each other on workouts and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, we wanted each other to be their very, very best when we were competing against each other. So
Mhm.
I didn't have any teams. I mean,
Did you name your sled
no,
like Tallulah?
no. My teammate who won gold in 2010 did. They called it the Night Train.
See, I was picturing Anchorman in the battle scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, where'd you get a grenade? Yeah. None of that, huh?
Right now.
Yeah. Well, that's a little disappointing.
Well,
No, that's good.
I would think that it wouldn't really look good on an Olympian
Yeah,
in the
probably not.
news when they're
Yeah,
like fist fighting or something like that. That's nobody wants to sponsor someone who's fist fighting.
Right. Let's go to
I
you.
kind of do. We like crowdfund it. That would be awesome. The first fully crowdfunded gold medalist. We'll
Yeah.
see. We got you, Bill.
Yeah, I do have a question I don't think we asked is like I had a friend who built a big company and when it got successful, he didn't know what to do next. I don't know if he didn't know what to do next. And he went through a big bout of depression, you know, when there was nothing next, right? And so when you came out of the Olympics and you retired, did you experience that? I guess you spoke about it a little bit, but
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened to me, right?
yeah.
My whole life I was just Olympics. And then once I got there and the crowds left and the banners came down in Salt Lake and I came home from, the last Olympics in Vancouver and I was like, what now? And that's what led me to a loss of identity. That kind of is what clicked. That was the event horizon for me, right?
Yeah.
And that just led me down a really bad path because I didn't know what to do. And so in my head, I was like, okay, just become a normal person. Okay, well, that's fine and dandy, but you don't even know you don't even have the tools to become a normal person because you've never been a normal person. So that took me down a path that I wasn't familiar with. And when I eventually came out of all this, that's what kind of inspired that quote that I said is plan your race your plan, but be prepared for the unknowns.
Hmm.
Known things in life will completely derail you.
Can you give us an example of what everyday things you had to do? Like I'm trying to envision this. Is it like
put the toilet paper
like,
roll on the
yeah,
toilet.
like you had to do the laundry and you had
Roll
to wash
holder.
the dishes and make the meals? Is that what you're talking? Like I'm trying to envision what you're at, what things you mean. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, when I become a normal person?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was used to traveling all around the world on a regular basis. I was gone 11 months out of the year when I wasn't competing, winning medals at every competition and, being celebrity in Europe and all that stuff. I was traveling to some of the biggest charity fundraising golf tournaments and events and then speaking on some of the biggest stages in the world. And so my whole life was all about me being on stage.
Okay.
And so, and then again, when I stayed in hotels, I didn't have to take care of everything. Everything was taken care of for me. My travel was taken care of. Everything was taken care of for me. So when I talk about being a normal person, in comparison to like my son's mom, who is not a stay-at-home mom, she would stay with our son, take care of him. And she was a full-time nurse that worked graveyard shifts, and she had owned a house and she had a car and she had to get up and pay bills and make her own food and like all those things. And so when I retired, I thought, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. So when I went to go do that, I had no idea how to do it. And it just led me down a really negative path because the reality is all I had to do is continue to be who I was as a person and not try and change and reinvent the wheel. And I tried to change and reinvent the wheel and it led me down a really nasty hill.
You know what it reminds me of is, in Narnia at the beginning, I don't know if you've seen that, where she goes and hides in the closet and then she's in Narnia.
Yeah.
And then she comes back out and she's like, did you guys miss me? And they're still counting. And they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like their life went on normal and you come back into that. Like I picture it like that is you've had this whole experience and a lifetime of experience. And then you come back to quote unquote normal and everybody around you is going about their life and you talk about it. And they're like, I have no interest in hearing you right now. I got to get to work. I got to make breakfast.
Yeah.
Like, Bill, that's great, but I'm busy. I got to get the kids off to school.
Got responsible.
Right? Yeah. Huh. That would be hard.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
like being on a different planet, honestly. And the same thing, for my son's mom, she wasn't used to me being around.
Right.
Came home and tried to interject into that relationship like I thought I was supposed to. I screwed things up even worse.
Huh.
And that's something that happens a lot with like military. They spend their whole life in the military, and they come home to retirement to be with the family, but they don't know how to live that life because
Right.
they've
Right.
been very structured in a certain way. So,
Man, that's a whole show right there.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Right.
is. Goodness me.
Reintegration. And,
All
yeah.
Boom. Round
That's
3.
awesome. Round 3. Sign me up. Well, guys, thank you. I'm feeling complete.
It was great. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Bill.
Enjoy your night.
Will do. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Night,
We'll see
Giants.
ya.
Have a good